What's going on, guys? It's NYPrepper here, and I wanted to do a weather alert. This is a very important video. What you're looking at here is the first nor'easter of the winter 2020 and 2021 season. And nor'easters, if you're not familiar with them, are extremely powerful coastal storms that affect the middle Atlantic and northeastern United States. The reason why they're called nor'easters is because they hug the northeastern coastline, and we're currently in the middle of a La Nina right now. And a La Nina is an ocean cycle, and it's one of two cycles. There's either La Nina or El Nino, and that those cycles affect the weather patterns around the world. They affect the climate, and it just so happens that La Ninas will increase the likelihood of nor'easters, okay? And it has a lot to do with the jet stream and Arctic air intrusions. But typically, when you have a moderately strong or any kind of decently strong La Nina, which is what we have right now, you're going to have a high amount of nor'easters, especially in the wintertime, which is typically when nor'easters happen, is fall, winter, and spring. And so this is setting us up for a potentially active winter as far as, blizzards and nor'easters go. If you live in the middle Atlantic states or the northeastern states, you need to really get your winter preps ready, because I think that we're going to have a pretty strong winter. I know it doesn't seem like it right now, but a lot of that has to do with the lagging effect because we just came out of an El Nino, and typically an El Nino warms the earth. Okay, it's a natural ocean cycle that goes back and forth between El Nino and La Nina, and it's a natural cycle that's been around for thousands of years. And the Mayans even knew about those cycles and their effect on the world's climate. But an El Nino typically causes a rise in global temperatures, and it especially causes warmer winters in the United States, especially in the Midwest and the Northeast. So we just came out of the El Nino, and so we're in a La Nina right now, which is the opposite of a El Nino. When there's a La Nina, you have cooler climate and more Arctic air intrusions and high latitude blocking. High latitude blocking, what that means is, in a very simple layman's terms, that's just what causes polar vortexes and Arctic air intrusions into lower latitudes like the United States. So this winter, we could potentially see a lot of nor'easters. We could see a lot of Arctic air intrusions into the Midwest, into the South, into the Northeast, okay? Because the La Nina favors that. And the way it works with a La Nina, if you're not familiar with what it has to do with the trade winds that blow over the equator. And if the trade winds are present, like during a La Nina, there's very strong trade winds. And the trade winds will blow the surface of the ocean around the equator. And by doing that, it causes cold water to upwell from the depths of the ocean. And all that cold water, it acts like a giant refrigerator. Basically, it cools the earth down, and so that affects the climate. And so we just happen to be in the middle of a cold La Nina right now, a pretty strong one, not the strongest La Nina, but we're in a moderately strong, La Nina, a proper La Nina. It's not like a weak one. And so because of that, you need to anticipate, the possibility of Arctic air intrusions, nor'easters. Okay, you need to get your winter preps, ready. You need to have your alternate heating sources. What I like to do is I like to keep Mr. Buddy heaters around. I have a Mr. Buddy heater and I have a few propane tanks. Even if you have a wood stove, like I have a fireplace with a wood stove insert, and even if you have a wood stove, you should still have some kind of alternate heat source. And for me, I personally prefer the Mr. Buddy heaters, the propane heaters, just because it's a quick source of heat. A wood stove is not necessarily a bulletproof technology. You could have something that inside of the stove, you could have all kinds of different problems with wood stoves. They are generally pretty bulletproof, but you always want to have redundancies in case something happens with your stove. Let's say something, whatever, something could happen with the flue pipe, something could happen with your chimney. You should always have a backup plan, and if you need a quick source of heat, the Mr. Buddy heaters are better than a wood stove, because a wood stove, you need to get it going. You have to let it heat up. It takes, a good hour to 2 hours before you really start to warm up an area with a wood stove. So, you should always have an alternate heat source. I like the Mr. Buddy heaters. You can grab a couple of propane tanks and keep them handy, just in case your power goes out in the middle of one of these nor'easters, okay, which happens a lot, especially if you live closer to the coastline where all the winds are with these nor'easters. You should have alternate heat sources, spare food, flashlights, firewood is always a good thing to have. And obviously, salt and shovels, that's common sense, but you should have, winter preps. I've done videos on winter preps. Another thing you want to have is warm clothing in your car. I always keep spare clothing in the car in the winter time. So if I break down on the side of the road and it's, below zero outside, and let's say I'm 20 miles away from my house, and it's no cell signal, I'm going to be on my own there. I'm not going to have somebody to magically rescue me. So I want to make sure I have good warm clothing, good boots, wool socks, a wool sweater. I typically have special gear that I have for the winter time, and I keep it in my car throughout the whole winter. Typically from like November through March, I'll keep that warm clothing in there, because if you get stuck on the side of the road in a blizzard like this, you could be trapped by the time the plows come. You could get stuck in a ditch somewhere, and it could be frigid outside, and it may be too far for you to walk. So you may have to stay in your car and keep warm. Another thing too is I keep a wool blanket in my car. I also keep a few pieces of firewood in my car, just in case, let's say you break down, you may want to start a fire to keep warm. And, believe it or not, being inside of a car can actually be colder, because of the metal of the car can actually conduct heat away from your body. So being inside of a car may not necessarily always be warmer, and sometimes it could actually be better to go outside and build a fire and maybe try to make like a small shelter. If you have like a wooded area, you can find some natural cover under some conifers and build yourself a fire off on the side of the road. You may actually be warmer doing that than being stuck in your car. But I always keep a few pieces of firewood, warm clothing. Boots are essential. Spare heater for your house, spare firewood. Okay, make sure you have everything ready, because I think this winter is going to be a serious one. And so I want to just go over the forecast here real quick, and then I'm going to shut down the video here. But I want to just show you guys the forecast here for New England. They're talking about up to 2 feet of snow. All right, you can see here in New England, New Hampshire and Maine are pretty much under a winter storm warning right now. Okay, and the latest advisory right now on that winter storm in New England, they're talking about heavy, wet snow, winds up to 45 miles per hour in the Boston area in Massachusetts, snow accumulations of 6 to 12 inches. The wet snow could result in numerous power outages with downed trees, especially if there's higher snowfall totals. So, even the National Weather Service here says that if you travel, always keep a spare flashlight, food, water, etc., in case of an emergency. Okay. So, this is a very serious storm, guys. There's going to be a lot of heavy, wet snow. There could be power outages, and that's why you want to have a spare heat source, okay? Because if your power goes out, and even if you have a generator, it may be days before the snow is cleared. You may not even be able to go and get gas to refuel your generator. So you want to have a heat source to heat your home, or at least be able to heat like a room inside of your house. and you can heat up that one room and keep it warm. And another thing too that I forgot to mention that I also keep in my car in the wintertime is I keep a military sleep system sleeping bag. Okay. And what I could do with that is if I have to stay in my car, if let's say I get stranded somewhere in a blizzard or whatever, I can put that sleeping bag on and I can sleep in my car and keep warm in my car. I can throw on that military sleeping bag with my wool blanket on top of it. And then on top of that, I can also have my warm winter clothing, and I could pretty much survive even down to like -50 if I had to. All right. So keep a sleeping bag in there. I recommend the military sleep system because it has a Gore-Tex outer shell. I recommend warm clothing in your car and a wool blanket and some firewood. Okay. And, so they're talking about up to 2 feet of snow here. And, so we have to really pay attention to what's going to happen with this La Nina. Now another thing I wanted to share with you guys too is the Arctic Oscillation and the North Atlantic Oscillation is going to turn negative over the next few weeks. Okay, and when the Arctic Oscillation and the North Atlantic Oscillation start to go negative, that means that we need to be ready for an Arctic air intrusion and polar vortexes and cold air intrusions. So here what you're looking at is the La Nina right now. You could see this cold water here. The blue represents below average sea surface temperatures. And here you can see we're in the middle of a strong La Nina right now, okay? And I want to show you guys the Arctic Oscillation. And you can see the Arctic Oscillation is going negative here. It's been positive for the last 2 weeks. And if you notice, the last 2 weeks, it's been very warm, especially here in the Northeast. We've had a pretty warm November. It's been mostly like slightly above average and kind of on the mild side. But as you see, it's been going a slightly negative, and it's going to go negative the next couple of days. And over here in where I am in upstate New York, they're talking about sub-zero temperatures on Sunday. After the nor'easter passes, the Arctic air is going to come down from Canada, and Sunday it's not going to make it above freezing. Okay, it's going to be down into the teens at night, possibly. So the pattern is about to flip, guys. Okay, I know it's been kind of a mild winter last year. It was very mild last year. The summer was very warm, and then we have a mild November. We did have some cold outbreaks in October. We had a few snowstorms. If some of you guys remember, I posted a video of there was some snow in October, and I posted a video of that on my channel. But don't let that fool you. Okay, just because it was mild doesn't mean that it can't turn cold. And you can see here the Arctic Oscillation is going negative. So that means that we're going to be heading into some colder temperatures the next couple of days. And same thing with the North Atlantic Oscillation as well. You can see it's going negative, and all these different red lines here, those are the different models. But you can see generally, no matter which model it is, they're all talking about a negative trend over the next at least week to 2 weeks, okay, through mid-December. So we have to be prepared for the winter, guys. Again, nor'easters are no joke. Okay, you should treat them like a hurricane because they pretty much are. They can bring really bad winds for coastal areas. They can cause power outages. They can cause flooding. They can cause heavy snow. All right, and after nor'easters, a lot of times what happens is Arctic air comes in and it can be extremely cold. So you need to get ready. You need to prepare. Get ready for the winter time, guys. I'm not trying to fearmonger you or scare you or anything like that. But looks like my vacuum just turned on. So that's pretty much it, guys. Thanks for watching. Take care. God bless. And don't forget the 3 Ps. Prepare, practice, and persevere.